Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's developer coaching webinar. My name is Tara Van Cleve, and I'm part of the technical marketing organization here at Oracle. Today, we're excited to show you how robotic process automation, or RPA, in Oracle integration can help you automate manual, repetitive tasks. I'd also like to note that we are recording the webinar, and you will receive the replay via email after the event concludes. If you have any questions, we have enabled the Q&A section of the Zoom where Sandhya Lakshmi Gopalan, Senior Product Manager for Oracle Integration Cloud, will be helping to answer your questions. So today's webinar will be presented by Aditya Trivedi, Senior Cloud Solutions Technologist. So without further ado, I will hand it off to Aditya to kick us off here.
So hello everyone, my name is Aditya. I have been with Oracle for about 6 years now, specialized in application integration, and today here to talk about robotic process automation within Oracle integration. Right. Just a quick safe harbor statement. Just wanted to spend a second or two here, um, and then let's just get into it. Right. So the agenda for today is I will spend a slide or two just to give you an overview of what Oracle integration is, um, and then why to use Oracle integration, right? And then we'll get into the main topic, right, which is what is robotic process automation and Oracle integration, and then we'll see a quick demo. And then towards the end, I have Sean, who is part of my team here, present on what the Code Innovate program is, what we offer, Oracle offers. And then we'll do just the Q&A. So, if you have questions, type them in the Q&A section. We'll try to answer those as we go along. If not, at the end, we'll spend some time to go over the questions, right? So let's start, right? So in terms of Oracle integration, right? It is a pure PaaS offering from Oracle, business automation platform. In terms of capabilities, the heart of the tool is to connect and integrate to applications, right? So we have lots and lots of adapters. I think it's 100 plus now, which you can use to connect to not only Oracle products, but also third-party non-Oracle products. You can also use this to connect not only to cloud applications, but also to on-prem applications, so hybrid sort of connectivity. And to do that, for example, if you have an on-prem application like eBusiness Suite, you can use integration agents to connect to these private endpoints. And then also, as nowadays every cloud is moving towards a multi-cloud strategy, we have adapters into other cloud providers as well, right? So that's the heart of the tool. Along with that, we have a lot of the other packaged products. One of those being the workflows. So in case you have a need where you need to create a approval flow, you can use the Oracle Process Automation that comes packaged within Oracle Integration Cloud. And then that is where you would build these business flows, which can then leverage the integrations that you've built and then vice versa, right? And then robotic process automation is the key that we're going to talk about today. That's the main topic. But I have some slides which go through, what it is and how to do it. But at a high level, if you have certain systems which don't expose APIs, you can use the RPA tool to then connect to those. It also comes to, some other features within Oracle integration, right? So B2B, if you need to do any sort of exchange of B2B documents with trading partners, supported within the tool itself. We have a decision service for those complicated decision tables. You can create that within the tool itself as well. And then some of the other features include, if you need to process documents, it's a separate service, but you can use the Oracle Integration Cloud to, leverage and orchestrate your flows to do an end-to-end AI document processing. Right? And then at the end, once you build all these flows, now you need a UI. There's a visual builder tool, which is also packaged within OIC. You can leverage that to build your UIs and then those UIs can then kind of leverage and invoke these flows that you've created into these different systems, right? So with this tool, right, once you build your integrations from source to target, you have data there that's moving between the systems. This helps you, in terms of data consistency across the enterprise, right? And then, for example, if you're creating an order, it's hitting some system, and at the same time you're, inserting it into a database, so you have the data there to inside the database or the data warehouse to visualize. So that lays a foundation for data-driven innovation where real-time data is being inserted into these warehouses, and then you can build dashboards and things like that. So um, all of these tools that I talked about, right? Or the integration engine, workflows, all of these are low code, no code web visual designers. So this kind of helps increase productivity, reduce costs because you're quicker go to market, quickly build out these integration flows, right? Um, in terms of the adapters, right, that the tool has, right now we have 100 plus adapters. And as you can see, these are some of the ones that we have. ERP connectivity, HCM connectivity. You can see, it's not only Oracle, we also have non-Oracle adapters, as well as, infrastructure adapters, as I said, the multi-cloud strategy. So we have adapters into Azure, GCP, AWS, all sorts of right. Um, there's also another offering of OIC that is for healthcare. So if you are a healthcare customer dealing with FHIR and HL7 protocols, that's also supported within the tool. But in case you don't see an adapter for any of the technology that you're using or you're trying to connect to, we always have technology adapters, right? So for REST or SOAP, so if they're exposing any sort of API, REST API, SOAP API, they're doing, some sort of file transactions, they're exporting files, importing. We have adapters to connect to SFTP, REST, SOAP, GraphQL, OData, and all sorts of things, right? So you can use those. Um, Now let's talk about why you would use this, right? So when we talk about automation, it requires a variety of tools, right? There's no one tool that fits and does everything that you require, right? So what we've seen is success is like directly proportional to the right use of technology. So if you use the right tool, you would get to the right desired, success pretty quick, right? And that's why if you need to integrate with APIs, use the application integration, right? That's the heart of the tool. You need to integrate with private APIs, right? APIs that are not exposed over the internet. They're on-prem APIs in a different cloud. You can use the integration agent that comes with it, right? Um, if you have any sort of applications which don't expose APIs, right? You can use the RPA, and that's why this kind of fits in to the OIC world, and you'll see as we show the demo, right? Um, if you need to build approval flows, use process automation. You have complex decisions, use decision service. You need to store files while you're doing all this. Use the file server that comes with an OIC, right? If you need to exchange B2B documents, use the B2B engine. It's inside OIC. Then at the end of all this, you just say, "Oh, I want some sort of UI." We have Visual Builder that comes packaged in, right? So, um, going back to this point, right? Automation requires a variety of tools, and that's why we've kind of handpicked and have all these tools inside of the integration service. Okay, so let's get to the main topic for today, which is the robotic process automation. Uh, and what is robotic process automation, right? So before we get into that, just wanted to spend a minute on explaining what an API is, right? So API, application programming interface, right, is basically, at a very, very high level, it's a set of rules for communicating between applications, right? So an application is trying to expose data or exposing some sort of functionality. Um, you have an input and an output, which is kind of like a contract or a set of rules, which is used for communicating, right? These are usually built using some sort of coding language, right? Java, Python, C++. And some of the examples are like, let's say you have a SaaS system where you need to create an order from some sort of external event, right? So it's an API, or you want to send details that are inside of the SaaS system to some other, application. So get product details is another example of an API, right? Um, Majority of the enterprise applications that we use or see nowadays, all of them, most of them have APIs, but there might be some which do not, right? There might be an application which has APIs, but doesn't have one for a particular functionality that you need, right? Or it's a legacy system which just doesn't have APIs, right? That could be also be the case. Um, so in that case, what we've seen currently we do is we use the user interface, right? So there's a user who logs into the system, goes to that particular page, pulls data out, maybe fills it into an Excel file, or goes to the target system and manually fills the data, right? So some sort of manual user repetitive work, right? So it's a task that a user does multiple times. Um, and because it's a human task, it could introduce human errors. It's more time consuming and it's just repetitive, right? So that's where the concept of robotic process automation comes into the picture, where instead of a human doing these tasks, a human does it once, tells the robot how to do it, then the robot goes and does the task, right? So saves on human errors and then also saves on time. So in a nutshell, that's what robotic process automation is. Um, and the one that comes within OIC, we'll take a look. But before we go there, the prerequisites that we need to do to develop and run the RPA is, so we've divided the prerequisites into two things, right? It's design time and runtime. For the design time, the only thing that we need to do is install, or if you've installed it and there's an update, just update the extension. So when you're actually telling the robot what to click, where to get the data from, or where to enter the data, um, the robot needs to know the button or the field or the text that it needs to read, right? So on that particular page, to tell it, we have in this case it's an extension, it's a Chrome extension, which you install, and then on that page, when you're developing the flow, you'll see this sort of splash UI, where when you click the begin recording, you'll see an overlay where if you hover over whichever button or whichever field you want to click, it will give you this green box. You click that button and it records all these actions that you're doing on the page, right? So to do all that, you need to have this extension installed. And again, all of this is in the documentation of how to do it. It's really easy to set up. So that's all for the design time. In terms of runtime, this needs to run somewhere, right? The robot needs to run. So the machine, the VM on which the robot runs is called an environment. And then you can have a pool of environments. And so first step is to create an environment pool. And then inside the pool, then you can say, hey, download this robotic agent installer, which is basically a jar file. You install that. Just one step, I think you need to go into installer profile and just update the name. Once you do that, you just run this similar to, you run like the OIC agent. You just do Java jar and then this. And then the agent, the robot agent just runs and is then listening for requests from the RPA module within OIC. So that's pretty much it for the setup prerequisites. And let's just get into the flow, and I'll just show you the sort of demo I've prepared for today, right? So before we get into the setup and then all that, I just wanted to spend a minute on explaining what the use case is in this case, right? So I have an ERP instance. It's an Oracle Fusion Apps ERP instance. And I'm trying to pull invoices. So this API is the standard Oracle ERP API, which is getting data about invoices back. And then in this invoice data that's returned back, I'm particularly interested in the supplier information, right? So if you see, you get the supplier name, you get the supplier number, you get the supplier site, but you don't get the supplier site address, right? And that's not available in this API. Of course, there's other APIs where you can call, but just for this demo, let's assume that this API does not return that field, and we need that field, right? So what do we do? So in this case, let me just go back. I'm logged into the ERP instance. I will just do manage invoices, and I'll just show you which particular field I'm interested in. So I'll do a quick search on my invoice, and you'll see that this address field is what I'm interested in, and which, you can see the site and the name and all that is being pulled up here, right? GJA and all that. But the address is not here. So that's what I'm interested in, and I'll try to pull this information using the RPA flow that I have, right? Okay, so let's get into the Oracle Integration Cloud, right? So once you get in here, just going to take you to the home page. And here under projects, once you create a project, let's see, this one, I have one. You'll see a separate icon. Earlier, you used to see just for, the integration, healthcare, and B2B. But now you'll see a icon for the robot, right? So we'll go to that robot icon, and you'll see here you have four sections. One is the robots. These are the robot flows that we have. This is the environment pools that I talked about that we have. Robot connection types. Currently, only web login is supported. And then robot connect. So these are connections based on the types, right? So in this case, since I'm connecting to an ERP instance, I have a connection to my ERP instance, right? In here, you'll see it's nothing but the same details that any connection would need: URL, username, and password. Right? Um, okay, and then once you create a robot, let me just take you into one and just show you how the designer looks. If you've used integrations, you'll see the designer kind of looks the same. There's a canvas. You have options here. On the right side, you have all the options that you can use to configure these flows. And then some information here on the save there, right? So when you create one, just have this one as a sample. You of course define the input and the output, right? In this case, I'm going to send this flow an invoice number so that it can log into the invoice ERP page, and then enter that number and then get me the particular supplier site address, right? So that's the output of this particular flow. And then now once we define that, the first step, of the robot flow would be to open the browser, right? So open an application. And then here you have options, you can open all sorts of browsers here. And then it's asking for the URL. Now you have multiple options. I think you can just, if you want, you can type it in here, or you can leverage the connection that we built outside of this flow, right? If you remember, we built the connection with the URL, username, and password. So what I've done is I've just referenced this particular URL, and that's what it's going to open when I run this, right? That's this first step. You have options to run the whole flow as a headless mode. So headless basically meaning that it won't open a separate window, and it's just going to run basically in the background. Right? But I don't have this set because I want to show you how it looks when it runs. So I just have this deselected, right? And then almost after, I think after each action, you have an option to do screenshots, and that those come in handy when you're trying to debug, what went wrong, what happened on the page, and all sorts of things, right? So once you open the browser, the next step is to log in. Again, login action is a type of action in this, and all of these fields I've taken from the connection that I have, right? So the username and password I've taken from the connection that I built outside. So it's just going to reference these fields from there. And the difference here in this action and the open action. So here we need to tell the robot which field to enter the username into, right? Which field to enter the password into, and then which I guess button to click when you entered all these and want to click on submit, right? So to do all these things, right, we need to have that extension, which I was mentioning earlier, installed or added to this browser so that it can go and fetch the details from there, right? So in this case, I have it installed or added. So what I can do is I can just kind of click this to say, in this case, if we'll assume this was blank and I wanted to tell it which button to click. So I would click this. And here, it's going to ask me to either create a target or choose from existing targets. I'll say let's just create a new target. And then here I'll see a list of tabs that are open, right? Tabs in this particular Chrome window, tabs that are open. And I can say, let's go to the manage invoices, and it's going to take me here. And now you see the UI kind of changes, right? Where I can now select fields which I want, right? Based on the selection. So let's just say, for example, the save button. So I just have to wait. I hover over these. You'll see now it's purple, but if I wait, it's going to turn green. Green means that now it's able to identify the XPath of that button or field. And then once I click that, you'll come back and store that into this particular variable, right? So target.login submit locator. And if I want to see what the value is, I can do this, and I'll see that eternally it's an XPath that is being stored, right? Um, so let's just hit cancel. I don't want to save because it's not the actual button. Let me actually just discard. Uh, just come back. I just wanted to show one more thing. So this would be a one way of, you know, um, locating, the fields that an action needs, right? Um, if you see on the right side on the robot actions, you'll see all the actions that are currently available. You can click to the statuses of check boxes, click elements, close browser. You can get a text, you can enter text into a text field, log in, all those actions that we've used here, right? So either you can drag one by one, then, the way I showed you go and say this button, click this button, click that button. But that's, a bit of a manual and tedious task, one by one you add to all those. So what we have here is we also have the record after the selected action. So if I do this and I say record, it's going to ask me for which tab I want to go to. So again, I'll go to Manage Invoices tab. And here now what happens is it opens a recorder. And recorder is just basically step by step, takes whatever I do, whatever I click, and adds that as an action within my RPA flow, right? So let's say, I click save. Um, I'll see this pop up here. I can name this because this is going to add an element in my flow in the canvas inside the RPA. So it gives me options to, rename this if I wanted to. And then the actions, include, of course, this is a button, so that's only click element and wait for the element. If this was a field, I would see, get value or get text option there. And then, one by one, I would go through the UI to reach this invoice page, and then, click the button to get text from this address field, right? So I would say, click, get text, and then save it into a variable, right? So that's how you would tell the RPA, the robot, to, go log in, click on this menu, come into invoices, and then get this particular field out from this page, right? And once you do that, all of the steps are recorded. So let me just stop here. All of the steps after this would be recorded, and then you just basically close the browser after you're done. So I have built a flow. I'll just show you that, which is already active. Um, so if I go to this one, version 1, this one is already built, and you'll see all the steps there, right? So clicks the navigator. This is the navigator, and then clicks the invoices here. Click element, click invoices, click task, enter the invoice number, search for it, and then get the supplier address from that field, and then return that back, right? So, so that's basically how you would develop the robot flow. Now, once you develop it, as I mentioned earlier, you need to have an environment where this can run, right? Environment is basically a VM where this robot agent is installed, and then you can run it as per need, right? So you create an environment pool, and then you say, add environment, if you have an existing environment. And this is where you download the robot agent. The robot agent is basically just a zip of these files. In particular, is the jar file that we want to run, and the installer profile. And if you see the installer profile, you will see that you just have to add this display name, which will be blank. And this display name would then show up here inside this. I think I've added it, so it's not. Oh, yeah, I can show it from here. Click this one environment. You'll see that RPA is the agent. RPA the agent is the agent that I installed, and that's why it's showing up there. So once you run this using Java jar, it then starts showing up here, and then you can add that environment inside the environment pool. Um, Let me just start this. So let's just do Java jar. Um, yeah, it'll give some basic logs to show that it's starting. And then once you see the message saying it's waiting for messages, then it means it's ready to take requests from the control. Yeah. So once you do that, you have your environment inside of an environment pool. Then what you can do is once you activate the robot, you have to assign the active robot to a pool, or I guess the other way around. You have to assign a pool to the robot. And once you do that, it's ready to run, right? Um, and basically, to run this, you can try running it from here, but because there's an input, I am running this from an integration, right? So let me go to the integration that I'll show. And here inside the integration, what I'm basically doing is I'm getting the invoice ID. So I'm getting the invoice ID here, and then just invoking the RPA flow with that invoice ID, and then returning the supplier side address to whoever is calling this for that particular invoice ID. Right? So simple enough integration. Let me just run it, and we'll see it run. Right. So here again, as I mentioned, it's taking in the invoice number. So when I click on run, this will go ahead and kick off the RPA flow. And in a couple of minutes, sorry, a couple of seconds, we'll see a message pop up here saying it got instructions, and then it's going to execute that. So yeah, you can see here launching robot instance. And in this case, as I mentioned, I'm not doing headless, so you'll see a window that pops up. You'll see, yeah, as you can see, it's opening it up. Just take it to foreground so you can see it. It's going to log in to my SaaS instance, enter the username, password, click sign in. Then it's going to wait for the loader landing page to show up. It's out of this here. It's going to click that top left menu, go and click the invoices. So it opens that. Click manage invoices. It's going to enter the invoice number, do a search. Click that invoice number and then get that particular field there. Yeah, so it's got it. And then once it executes, it's going to go back to that RPA module within OIC. And from that RPA module, it's going to return back to my integration, and you should see the response pop up here now. Looks like it's done. Okay, now it's going to come in any second now. There we go. And you can see the address was pulled from that particular field, right? So, and in the logs for the integration, you'll see, it invoked the RPA flow, and everything was successful, all green, it's all good. So yeah, that's kind of the demo that I wanted to show for this particular RPA flow, right? Just before I hand it to Sean, I just wanted to go back to the slides. A couple of more things, right? So a lot of times you might be in a situation where the app that you're trying to connect with maybe isn't exposing that particular field, or maybe isn't exposing that particular API altogether, right? So maybe it's in development, right? Maybe um, it's still not out yet. In those scenarios, right, this comes in handy. In this case, let's take the same example, right? The supplier side address is not available in the API response, right? Now, when you report it, it takes time for the developers to maybe add that field. It's going to take some time. So what do you do? So you can use the RPA tool, right? So you set up an environment, you set up the agent that does the task to pull the data out, takes instructions from the RPA module within integration. Um, and this integration flow calls this flow to do all this process. But in the future, 2, 3, 4 releases, they introduce that particular field, and now there is no need for this. Then what you can do is just simply replace the call to RPA with the call to the API. So basically, you're future proofing, right? So it's available. So in the future, you can just replace that step without changing a lot of things within your integration flow to get the data, right? In terms of just some more information, this it will be available from 2502. And if you want to get started, we have a live lab, which explains how to do all of these steps, right? Set up the flow, set up the environment, set up the extension, build the sample flow. We have the documentation that's out there, blogs, and then also a video. And we can put these links in the chat here, as well as send this out after the session, right? But yeah, that's about it in terms of the demo here. I will hand it over to Sean while I look at the questions if we have some, but we'll have some time after Sean goes over the Code Innovate program to just do a little bit more of Q&A in case you had some questions. Yeah. So over to Sean. Thanks.
Thank you, Aditya. Before I get into my presentation, I just want to say great job. on the demonstration. And also, I want to give a shout out to Sonia, who's been really getting, keeping up with the brisk pace of all the questions coming in about the demo. And I just appreciate the engagement that you guys have on the topic that we're presenting on today. So I wanted to call that out. Great job, Sonia. I mean, there's 40 questions in the chat already. So continue to put your questions in the Q&A, and Aditya will continue to cover them as I go through the material that I'm going to go through on our presentation of what the Oracle Code Innovate program is. So give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen and get into it. So first and foremost, I just want to take a moment to thank you all for taking some time out of your day, probably on your lunch hour, to attend our presentation demonstration. So my name is Sean Cartwright. I'm a senior cloud engineer and a program manager here at Oracle. And I'm just going to take about 10 minutes or so to explain to you about a program that Aditya and I have been a part of now for going on 4+ years. So let me get into it. What is Virtual Code Innovate? Well, in its simplest form, Code Innovate is a customer enablement and training program for new and existing Oracle customers, supported by a team of deep dive engineers. We have about 20 engineers on our team at this point. What Code Innovate is a 5 half-day online event on Zoom, and it's designed to educate builders on Oracle Cloud, and while producing a first pass prototype on customer selected business challenges. So over the course of a week, participants from your team are paired with an Oracle engineer to guide them through best practices and on how we approach the process of code development or building together. So during this time, we're going to brainstorm on your business challenges that you bring to us. We're going to identify different tasks to complete, and we're going to partner with you over the course of essentially half a week to develop a minimally viable product or an MVP. So whether you guys are novices in Oracle Cloud, or you're pros in Oracle Cloud, or you've been using it for a long time, you're welcome to participate. So Code Innovate is all about building real solutions for your organization's most pressing business cases that you guys identify. So now I'm going to get into what the Code Innovate experience is. So you may be asking yourself, what does this program offer? What is the process by which we go about getting started and planning for an event? So first, we start by reviewing your strategic use cases, which require at least one, if not multiple technologies to solution for it. Then we go and we pair that use case up with our engineers who have deep experience developing on the required services, and potentially oftentimes with similar use cases for our past customer experiences, as we've been with, well over, hundreds of customers now over the last 5 or 6 years. And then with our guidance, we're going to help your organization deliver a first pass prototype or an MVP of the desired solution. So now I'm going to pivot over and we'll take a closer look at what the framework of the program is. But firstly, a point I would like to make is that our program does not only support Oracle Robotic Process Automation, RPA, the topic that we're discussing today. It also supports builds with many different infrastructure and platform services on Oracle Cloud, including cloud native services like Oracle Kubernetes Engine, or the DevOps service, which is our CI/CD tool. We support Oracle Analytics Cloud, generative AI services, Oracle Digital Assistant, which is our chatbot platform, Oracle Integration Cloud, as Aditya was mentioning earlier, and that includes Visual Builder Studio, which is another CI/CD tool, Visual Builder Cloud Service, which is a mobile and web application creation tool. And there's a whole host of other services, so many that I can't even get into all of them right now in this short amount of time. But suffice to say, most times our use case builds involve multiple different services that comprise the entire prototype solution. So I make this point because oftentimes on our webinars like this, we just focus on a single topic or a product, but our team is capable of resourcing specialists within our team to meet most of the needs that you guys have for your organization as far as your business problems are concerned. So everything that our team works on is a custom built prototype, tailor fit to your use case. So with that being said, here's what sort of the timeline looks like. So once we've agreed on a suitable use case, then we're going to determine an event week, and then we'll start working towards that event week itself, or that 20-hour sprint that we will be working on together. So Once we establish that, we work towards the week. There's going to be different things that we have a series of meetings, typically at least once per week, where we're going to help you guys with configuring your tenancy, which is all this pre-event setup, I guess, is what we would call it. But that includes provisioning the services that you guys need, for these solutions, whether it's a RPA, OIC, or anything else in all of the different IaaS and PaaS services that we could touch. Setting up users to make sure that all of the team members that you're going to assign to this effort, that they all have access to these services that they're going to need to use. Connecting to the data sources that we're going to need. Oftentimes, you guys are going to have to, give us the data that we have to use to connect to different systems. If we're talking about integrations, whether those happen to be on public or private subnets or on-prem or Oracle Cloud or whatever, we need to be able to connect to all those sources, and networking, things like that. So all of these things we're going to have to accomplish before the event gets started, just to make sure that we have as much time as we can throughout those 20 hours of building on the solution itself and not worrying about those administrative and technical prerequisite tasks that we should get done. We also offer what we call structured learnings, which are essentially training demos of the services that we're going to be utilizing throughout the event week. We want to establish a baseline familiarity for you and your teams on what these solutions look like, and how to actually access them and how to navigate the OCI console and so on and so forth. Just so that we're all starting from a base understanding of what the services are and how they function, features, functionality, and so on. This is a great opportunity for participants to get exposure to the tools that they'll be developing in. And then we have the event. So what do we ask for as far as event requirements? Well, number one, we ask that you bring your use cases because we want to work on things that you guys want to work on. Then once we know that, we go back internally and ensure that we have the requisite skill sets on our team for any of the technologies that you guys need to solve that problem. And then, and we ask, can we fulfill all the requirements that you're asking for in those 20 hours? Because again, this is just a first pass prototype. It's not meant to be an end-to-end solution, although depending on the simplicity or complexity of the solution or the business problem you bring to us, we'll be able to get a fair bit of along of the way of actually solving the problem in 20 hours of time, believe it or not. So I should mention again that we support multiple use cases or teams during a single event. The ratio to which we staff our events is typically 4 customer attendees or builders with 1 Oracle engineer per team. That just allows everyone to get more time to get hands-on with the and learn how to build an OCI, because we want them to be smaller group sessions so that we can kind of rotate around the team, whether that be on a daily basis or hourly, whatever it might be, just so everyone can kind of collaborate together. We ask for at least 4 or more developers or analysts, or associated, technologists. They don't need any prior experience in Oracle services, not necessarily, depending on the technologies involved. We will help meet you guys where you're at. We usually need about 3 weeks of lead time to run an event. 3 weeks of lead time doesn't mean that we're not going to meet for those 3 weeks. It just ensures that we have the correct resourcing from our side as well as for yourselves. Oftentimes, you guys as developers and business units, I'm sure that you run sprints and you're on development cycles and so forth. So we want to make sure we do the event on a time that is best for you and that you can balance the keeping the lights on activities with doing this 20-hour development engagement that week itself. So we're going to have formal cadence meetings with you all, typically at least once a week for 30 minutes leading up to the event, just to discuss those things I talked about, like at the very least doing more use case discovery and trying to hone in on what specifically we're going to accomplish and what you guys need to see as far as the solution is concerned, and agreeing upon logistics. When are we going to do the event? What time of day? And so on and so forth. So I'll say again that this is a 5 half-day event, typically for 4 hours a day. If it's a week that we pick that happens to land on a holiday, whether it's a federal holiday, Oracle holiday, or a customer holiday, we can kind of shuffle that around to make it a 4-day for 5 hours a day configuration. So whether it's 4 or 5 days, we'll just meet that 20 hours, however you see fit. Last but not least, I just want to say that there's no fee to do the event that you have to pay our team beyond the time commitment from both of our sides and the cost of the cloud services that you guys consume to build out the use cases. So the services themselves, but you don't have to pay a fee to participate in the event. And I just want to make one more note that our program currently only supports customers that are accounts that are based here in North America, which happens to be the US and Canadian customers, but we don't currently support any customers outside the US and Canada at this point. But beyond that, I just appreciate you all being here today and taking some time to listen to my presentation. If this program sounds like something that would be that you're interested in exploring and it might be a fit for the use case that you have in mind, there are several different ways for you guys to get in touch with us. You can send us an email using the address on the screen at the codeinnovate_us_grp@oracle.com. You can also add your name and email address into the Q&A section, I believe, and we'll take that down as well. Or if you're working with an Oracle account manager or what we call cloud platform representatives, if you're already working with one of those folks and you get in touch with them, they can also get in touch with us that way, or any other Oracle representative that you guys are dealing with, they can internally get in touch with us as well. But there are multiple ways for you to get in touch with us. But I'd be happy to take this back to any of your teams and talk to them about what we talked about here today and give you more detail and see if it's a good fit for you. Other than that, thank you. And I hope to see you guys again at future cloud coaching seminars. And with that, I will hand it back to Tara. If you guys have any questions about Code Innovate, or I'm sure you guys have been asking more questions about RPA, we'll continue to field them in the chat, but I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, just one last announcement that I want to make, taking this opportunity here. First of all, thank you here for all of you for setting this, organizing this. And I'm really glad to see the kind of engagement that we have with the question and answers. It just makes me feel that there is a lot of interest in this area. So I would recommend all of you go through the resources that is shared. If you have specific requirements that you're trying to solve using RPA, and if you are using a different RPA platform today, I just want to let you guys know, with OIC and the capabilities within OIC, along with RPA that we are offering, you will have to step back and take a relook at the solution that you have built using your current RPA implementation. Why I'm saying this is a lot of customers we have spoken to, have gotten into the space of building everything using robots, and they're totally unhappy with how they're able to scale, they're unhappy with the reliability that they're getting out of that solution. We are recommending our customers to stay away from that. Use the variety of tool sets we provide you within Oracle integration, and use them effectively to solve your automation problems. So it can be a combination of these technologies that you will have to eventually use to address your use case. So that is one thing. The other thing is OIC3 RPA is generally available with the February release. That is the 2502 release. RPA is generally available. Today in the LA program, we have been able to successfully onboard 40 plus customers, validate a number of use cases. If you want to understand more about use cases that you can solve using OIC RPA, reach out to me. I'll set up a session where I exclusively do a deep dive on those use cases. So yeah, that's all, Tara. Thanks. Thank you. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me as required.
Thank you. All right, we will wrap up here. So if you enjoyed today's session, we do have upcoming events in this series, this developer coaching series, and you can find that at oracle.com/developer/events. And we'd also love to hear your feedback on today's session or on any topics that you'd look forward to seeing in the future. So you can grab that bit.ly link, or that same survey link will also pop up as you exit the Zoom today. So please do share your feedback with us. And lastly, before you go, we'd like to also invite you to check out our Oracle AI Solutions Hub that features nearly 70 different use cases, which you can find at oracle.ai. Just wanted to say a big thank you again, everyone, so much for joining us here today. And we hope that we see you at the next one. Thanks so much, everyone.